Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. I made a desk tour video a couple of months ago, and since then I haven't been really keeping my stuff too clean and organized, so I thought I would take this opportunity to clean and organize my desk a little bit differently. So if you want to see how my desk used to be like, and I will leave the desk tour video in the description, or if you would like me to do an updated version with the new setup, then do let me know. Otherwise, let's get all this crap kind of sorted and purge a few things from my desk from in here. And yeah, I think that's about it for now. Let's go ahead and just get everything cleaned up so we can just get started with purging things and getting things set up now. So something actually arrived earlier this weekend. I actually had the opportunity to try out the Flexispot EW8W standing desk, and this one is their 48-inch white top and white frame standing desk model. So while I move this thing upstairs, I'll talk a little bit more about the desk itself. The desk can support up to 110 pounds, and it came in these very easy to assemble parts. So the parts include the desk top, which is the top part of the desk. Then we have the frame, and as well as the legs and the power cords. So these are the instructions. They're super easy to follow. I just ended up taking maybe half an hour to assemble everything up together. And yeah, I'm just going to show you guys a little bit of footage of how I assembled the entire desk together. And for the desk, you actually can have a bunch of different options in terms of the customization. You can basically mix and match both the top portion of your desk, like the surface, as well as the actual frame. So maybe you want to do a black top and a white frame. You could do black on black, you can do white on white. I believe they also have a bamboo surface or a bamboo top, which could look super cute. But for the assembly, like I mentioned earlier, that it's really simple. So all the parts and tools that you need to assemble your desk is all in the package. So I'm basically putting in 8 screws, 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and I'm using the provided Allen wrench to tighten up these little screws so that we can attach the frame to the desk. Last but not least, I am going to put in the actual leg portions. So it's just another set of 4 screws on this side and another set of 4 screws on the other side, and I'm going to make sure that they're nice and tight before we move on to the cords. So as I'm tightening the last little parts for the feet and everything is now attached to the desk, this is kind of what it looks like at this state. But now we actually have to get the motor and the power running, so let's go ahead and do that. So in this small box is actually your power cord, so we're going to go ahead and plug that in, but we're also going to plug in this portion, which is basically allowing the power and the motor to run. So I believe the cylindrical thing right here is actually the motor, and this little box is actually where the power goes. And it's basically stuck on with Velcro, so you can remove it if need be, but for now I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to plug this in. I'm going to flip my desk over so that we can see it in action. So now that it's actually on, I'm actually going to show you guys what the actual features of this desk. So this desk does come with a little drawer in the front, which is nice and convenient to store kind of like your smaller items if you like. It also has the buttons on the right hand side, and it also has 3 device ports, which is 2 USBs and then 1 USB-C port, plus a child safety lock, but I'll show you guys a closer look at all of those a little bit later. I'm basically showing you guys the kind of like up and down movement. So this desk can go up from 28.3 inches to 47.6 inches tall, which is pretty nice. It can go pretty low, so it can suit people at different heights, as well as when you want to stand and work, it'll be at an appropriate height for you. So I'm showing you guys right here is how you are going to be able to lock. So by holding down any of the numbers on the side at a desired height, it will basically set that number to that height, and it will remember that for the future. So another feature is that it does have a child lock as well. So when I was actually organizing things across my desk, I was wearing like leggings and shorts, so sometimes my thigh would go over and touch the buttons and it would cause the desk to move. So it's nice to have a child lock so that you're accidentally not pressing things, or if you do have children, they're not accidentally raising and lowering the desk too often. So I didn't really film the entire portion of me cleaning out my room because it actually took me a few hours. I actually got my older brother to come and help me move in the standing desk into my room just to make sure I didn't break anything on the way. So I'm going to basically clean out everything here. I'm going to purge a lot of things from my old desk, and you can see that I'm going to have to organize everything. But with a little bit of editing, now you can see that this is kind of the state of my room at the moment, and a lot of it's more clean. I cleaned up my shelf, I got everything back onto my desk, including my laptop. I have my monitor on a monitor arm. I also put some stuff back into the drawer. And for the drawer, it was a little bit more shallow compared to my old desk, so I'm not going to be able to stack as high, and I'm thinking of getting some storage organizers from in here because when I move the drawers, some of the stuff kind of shakes a little bit. But now you can see that majority of everything is kind of in its rightful place as it was before, and I'm still thinking I'm going to purge a little bit more so that my room can be just a little bit less cluttered. I keep a lot of my traditional mediums down here. Also with this desk, now that the fact that it's not really in the way, I actually have room to this back portion of the shelf. Also my cable organization and cable management's a little bit weird. I do have some things kind of attached to the table itself, so some things don't really get snagged, but in the future, hopefully I will get things a little bit more appropriately organized. So while I show you guys the different heights that I have my desk set at, I highly recommend checking out Flexispot and using the link down below if you're interested in getting any kind of standing desk. I personally love using Flexispot's standing desks just because I personally work a lot at my desk and I'm often just curled up in my chair and it's very bad posture. I have another one downstairs just for packing orders just because I do like standing while packing my orders, and it's just more convenient to have it at a height like the standing desks. And also my brother has one because he also works from home and he works a lot of hours at the computer, so it's just better for his posture overall. Thank you again to Flexispot for sponsoring today's video, and let's talk a little bit more about the desk usage as well as just doing some illustrating and drawing today. So I'm going to go ahead and crack open my iPad because I kind of wanted to play around with the idea of drawing my OC Masaki with kind of like what I would assume his desk would be like. So I've actually drawn Masaki kind of like sitting in my setup from the old desk tour video, and you can see this is what my old desk used to look like. It was kind of beaten up and was nice and I don't know, really used at that point. So I'm glad to be having a new desk that kind of works a little bit better with my work schedule, and just me being at home and working at the desk a lot, it'll be just a lot better for my back. So let's talk about the actual drawing portion for today. So initially, I was just going to edit down the picture and kind of plan out Masaki's setup from my setup, but I noticed that when I was trying to shorten down the desk to be at a normal height rather than the standing height when I took the picture, it was not at the right perspective anymore. And I'm personally not very good at drawing just like anything building related, furniture, anything super angular. So drawing anything building like is very difficult for me. So I'm going to keep this drawing pretty simple. I'm just going to put in a basic desk. I'm going to put in kind of like, it feels like a floating shelf right next to kind of like a windowsill area with some plants. I have kind of what would be, I assume, like a pegboard, so Masaki can basically put stuff on there. You can also do makeshift shelves and stuff. I think he would have like a tiny little calendar just for the day of the month, and then I don't know, I feel like his aesthetic would be much more clean and a little bit more minimalistic compared to mine. I've seen people comment on my previous desk tour video that they said my setup kind of looks kind of cozy and comfy, and I do agree with that. And I know to some people, aka like my brother, who's a little bit more, he's more into minimalistic. He's very clean, very, I don't know, very organized, I guess, because he has less belongings than I do. And I tend to collect things quite a bit. You can probably consider me maybe a hoarder. I don't know. Me and my friends like to joke that me and my other friend are like hoarders because we like to keep things for like sentimentality. Anything that's sentimental, I guess, is that what I'm trying to say. But basically, because I have a lot of stuff like art supplies, I have a lot of papers, books, and just like a bunch of different kind of stuff, even my figurines, I do like to keep them all together, which might contribute to cozy-ish vibe just because things tend to be a little bit more packed and it feels a little bit more contained. But I do think Masaki would be someone who has less stuff, a little bit more towards utility versus aesthetic. But aesthetic wise, I do think he would like the lighter aesthetic for the most part, probably more either earth tones, more natural colors plus white, or just maybe like greens and whites. Probably nothing too dark, also probably nothing too cluttered for him. I just don't really imagine him spending too much time at his desk either, other than for when he's studying, which is kind of what I'm illustrating right now. So the sketch became very, very simple, which kind of made me feel like I wasn't gonna like this illustration regardless, and I'm kind of right. I don't think I put enough effort into this technically, so we'll see how this ends up. I tried my best, but I definitely think that because I didn't take a lot of things into consideration when I actually started the sketching portion, I was very lost when it came to the coloring portion. So the only thing I kind of like is that in the beginning, when I had kind of more of these bare, almost grayish beige walls for Masaki, I wanted light to kind of peer in. And my favorite thing more recently is kind of leaving kind of like a warmer band of color before it hits shadow. It just looks a lot prettier. It just feels a little bit more warmth when the sun comes through and hits like some kind of surface. I feel like also I'm low-key trying to live a little bit vicariously through Masaki in terms of probably the minimal aesthetic. I do think in the future what I'm going to do is just like one gigantic purge, both of my clothing, but of a lot of my belongings, and just having things that are just mostly utility based, or like, you know, things that have a use rather than just purely aesthetics. I think the only things I will keep 100% is probably like my figurines, which I have on my one shelf closest to the door, and then also my plushies because I'm not getting rid of them. They're too cute. But let's talk about the drawing a little bit more. So I basically got some basic colors. I did some very basic shadows as well. I'm putting in a little bit more lighting. I added a multiply layer as well. After that, I merged everything onto one layer again, and we are going to go ahead and start to basically clean up and render. I was about to sneeze and I don't think it's gonna happen anymore. But yes, I'm going to render and clean up everything to a certain point. So I'm going to get very tired of this illustration super easily, and like I said, it's probably because I wasn't really in love with my sketch, and I think a lot of you guys actually know that sketching tends to be my favorite portion of drawing, and then I would say it would be coloring. Skipping out line work in general, I don't think line work's too bad, but if I don't really feel my sketch and I don't really feel the coloring, rendering and cleaning up is going to be extremely painful, because I'm going to be pushing a lot of my, I guess, like my time and my effort into making things look a certain way when I feel like I should have established it earlier. But you know, you can't love every drawing you make, I guess. But for the desk, let's talk about it a little bit more. So the differences kind of between this current desk by Flexispot and my old desk is, one, the space is pretty much the same, so I didn't really lose any real estate on top of like the top surface, I guess. So my monitor arm also can nicely sit on the back side of my desk instead of the side of my desk, which I initially even shuffled my bed and my headboard shelf to the side so that I can make room for my monitor arm to sit. But because this desk does not have any flat sides for, I guess, like to prevent anything from clipping to the side, I'm able to put my monitor arm basically on any side and it wouldn't be a problem. So my old desk actually had an entire flat back portion, which made it impossible for me to mount my monitor arm to my desk from the back side. So I always had to do it from the side, which it had a very tiny lip, and it made it feel a little bit precariously hanging on my desk. So I definitely like the fact that this Flexispot gives me a little bit more surface area just because my monitor arm is now on the back side of my desk. The difference between, I guess, like the actual desk itself is that this one is much thinner. So I actually do prefer this. I sit cross-legged, which is probably very bad on my chair. But because this desk isn't as thick and I can raise my chair all the way up and have my desk at an appropriate height. Right now it's set at 30 inches off the ground because it's aligned with my white shelving on the right side of me. And it makes it just easier for me to have my legs underneath my desk. And you know, it's obviously a lot easier for me to stand and work as well, which is good because sometimes when I'm recording videos, especially like ASMR videos, or I'm filming for a longer period of time, or even like when streaming. Usually when I do streaming, I don't take breaks in between. Usually when I do filming, I can take breaks. I usually go grab a snack, I walk around, but when I'm doing like streaming or if I'm doing just long recording sessions, I stay cooped up on my chair for sometimes a few hours, and it's very bad for my back because sometimes my desk is too low and then I will lower my chair and then everything just feels a little bit off. But I feel like an easy fix is to have the ability to stand while working, because standing for me, I'm at a constant height basically, and having the desk reach me at that level is just really nice. But it's also just nice because the flexibility of the different heights, because it can go anywhere from like 28 inches to 46 inches. You can basically just have that whole range for you to play around with, which I really do enjoy. But yeah, I think for the most part, the only problem I had with the desk was basically the fact that the storage space was a little bit small compared to initially what I had before. Like I said, the kind of like storage space, the drawer itself kind of is much more shallow because the desk is much more thinner than my previous desk. So I had to purge out a lot of the stuff. Granted, like a lot of the stuff I had previously were not really like needed to be used or anything like that, but I do have to find like a new home for them now. But you know, that's an okay thing. It's probably for the best. But for the most part, yeah, I'm very pleased with this desk. I love the finish on it. It's very smooth. I feel like it wouldn't stain easily, very easy to clean up. Also just very sturdy. It doesn't shake when I type. It doesn't, I don't know, it just feels like a good sturdy desk. I feel like it helps that the wood or the top portion feels very thick, and then the frame itself is metal, so it just feels very high quality, if anything. And like I mentioned earlier, this is not my first product from Flexispot. In my household, we have 3 desks. I've received a different Flexispot one, and I've used it for a kind of like my orders and my packaging station, because sometimes I package stuff for 8 hours, and sitting down and being hunched over a coffee table and a shorter desk just really sucks. So having the option to stand while packing just makes things a lot quicker, a lot faster. Also, I feel like typing just feels a lot nicer down there, especially because, you know, my laptop screen feels like it's at eye level and everything. So yeah, and also my brother has one that he bought this year as well because he's been working at home a lot. So he has a standing desk as well because he doesn't want to be cooped up sitting on his chair for too long either. But yeah, for the most part, I hope you guys will at least check out Flexispot if you can, because I do recommend a standing desk, especially if you're sitting for a long period of time while working. I highly recommend it. So do check out the links down below. And that's it for the illustration of Masaki. So I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!